Hello. Hello from my oh, no voice. Hello from my Korean apartment that doesn't really have anything to show you yet, but we're here. While I wait for just a few more people to connect on, I just want to make a quick announcement that this coming Saturday morning, Korea time, Friday night, Eastern Standard Time, is my friend speeding event. We had one last week. We had a blast. We had so much fun. So if you're interested in friend speeding, just go to MEGAN-OSTEN-VWD, and I'll put that in the top of or the description box, and go to the friend speeding event and sign up if you would like to come hang out with me. It's like a Google Meet, so we all hung out, talked, met each other, and like exchanged like past travel stories and just connected with other people. And then yeah, I had so much fun. I want more people to come too. But all the details are on my website. Hello, hello. My makeup looks pretty. I don't really wear a lot of makeup, but my skin, just the reason like the webcams are great, because this is my computer, like this isn't a fancy device. It makes you look really nice. Like the more detailed in the camera, the more you would see. I have this like huge dry skin patch right here, and my makeup got all, but thank you. Hi, hello. Hi, Rachel Fluffs again. And is it Clea? Hi. Hello, Ross. Leaving hotel quarantine in 2 days. You're almost there. And it was only 7 days. So it goes so much faster than the 14 days that I was stuck with. Ross, how do you feel? Has it been good? Rough in between? Hi, James. Hello, everybody. Rochelle, Happy Drawings is back. Hello. Good morning. Yes, Marlena she. 사랑해. I love you, girl. Yes, it is a loft apartment. Hello, Christy. It is a loft apartment. It is pretty small, but you could put me in a shoebox. I'm in Korea, right? So I'm over here like, yeah, great. Hello, hello. Hi, Barbara. I always see your comments, Barbara. You're always so sweet and all over the place. You're so sweet. Feeling great that it's not 14 days of quarantine. Oh yeah. Don't know how people live. I don't know how I lived through it either. I don't know if I did all that great of a job, but I did. Hi, Ty. Here for the tea. Latte. Yeah, hello. Hello, Latte's a horse. A lot of you wonderful people came back. So good to see you guys. I am in Seoul. I'm in Korea. This is my Korean apartment. I filmed like, I want to say like the first full day or the first full second day, because I quarantined in this space. I filmed a really quick empty apartment tour because I desperately need your guys' help on how to decorate this place. I don't know how to decorate apartments to save my life. Good to see you too, James. Oh, hi, Amber. Good to see all you guys. I know that there's a lot of tea to talk about though, because wow. So getting to Korea in general is stressful. If any of you guys have done anything like visa related, the KETA is still, like stressful, but I'm more so talking about the visas that you have to like do a bunch of paperwork in advance and apply, and they can like approve or deny, and then it takes a really long time to get all your paperwork and you have to send them your passport, those kind of visas. It's stressful. So like the process of getting here was very stressful. So you kind of just hope that, it's like you're here. So it's going to be great, right? And then like if you guys follow me on Instagram, that's probably where I keep everybody like the most up to date. I would say Instagram is where I'm most active. And then my coffee page, it's like a support me page, but I do write like short blog posts, or I upload videos on my coffee website, which I believe is also in the description box. Like it's just a fun way to like keep you guys a little bit more up to date and a little like less serious. Yeah, it's in the description under like it's a way that you can support my channel, but you can just go on there and like read some of the posts that I make. And so I've just kind of been a little here and there, keeping some people up to date. But on Instagram, I talked about the taxi situation and how it's yeah, I literally like if you guys want me to talk about it here, I explained the whole situation on my Instagram as far as like how I got here, PCR tests, mistakes that I made in like my quarantine, not in a government facility quarantine, but I'm gonna make like an official video on it as well so that if you don't follow me on Instagram or you don't have an Instagram, you don't miss out. But I talked on there about how the taxi that I took, like you guys know, I have maybe some of you do, maybe you don't. I have a taxi video specifically about don't make these taxi mistakes. So I know how you can get ripped off. I know I always use Kakao Taxi rather than calling the taxis off the street, like the taxi driving by and you're like, hey, pick me up. I always call them with Kakao Taxi, which is like an app, kind of like Uber in America. I always use that because you can see how much it's going to cost. You can track to make sure that they're not taking like a weird roundabout way and kind of, try and get more money out of you. Like that. I mean, that happens in all countries. Like America, same thing. I've had Uber drivers do that. So you have to be really careful. But this situation, so I know that you can take a taxi from the airport to your quarantine facility. You just have to take a quarantine taxi. So I'm thinking in my head, like there's probably only like a strict like quarantine taxis are the small cars. Like I just assumed. And if not, I assumed that they would ask you or, there would be a conversation, but I'm waiting in this line. No one really like spoke English all that well, but it was enough to get by. Waiting in this line for other people who want taxis and like the next driver comes up and you know, okay, let's go. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And then you walk over and there's like a piece of paper that you have to sign and put your phone number. And if you don't have a phone number, you have to put like a friend's. But if you're coming on a long-term visa and you're going to quarantine somewhere else, please have a phone number. Please, 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 please have a phone number. It's just going to make your life so much easier. You can order food that way. You can't do a lot without your ARC, but you're super limited if you don't have a phone number. So I'd really recommend getting a SIM card in advance. But that's a whole different story about how my SIM card didn't work. Um, so I just walked with this guy. There's a little piece of paper and he's like filling it out and he's like, "Oh, put your phone number here." I'm like, "Okay." Like I'm signing basically something, not knowing what I'm signing, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal because I assumed me putting my phone number was like if I did anything, they're gonna let me know. Like if I didn't pay or if I ran off, they would call me or something. But I was like, whatever. Slide into the slide in behind my taxi guy who has like he's nice. He pushes the luggage for me. He takes off. He's like, and I'm like, whoa, okay, we're going. Pulls up to a black jumbo taxi, which is the most expensive taxi in all of Korea, from my understanding. I think the only one that's technically more expensive than that is like an international taxi. Those can get really expensive because they're expected to speak English, but I think those are a complete waste of money. Pulls up to this big jumbo black taxi, and I'm like, nobody was going to tell me. Nobody's going to inform me. And I don't know if it's because I had two big suitcases and a small suitcase that there's some, this is where you have to go. But I know for a fact that I can fit two large suitcases and a small suitcase in a small taxi. So the fact that I had to pay double almost, it's probably a little under double, but still, I have to pay way more for a jumbo taxi, and it just felt sneaky. So on my Instagram, I posted a word in my story, and I believe I like pre-saved them into like the stories that stay in your Instagram, but if not, I'll make the story of like the word that you need to say and ask like, "Hey, I would like to stay in or I would like to be taken in a small taxi." Um, but yeah, so just stuff like that. That was not when you're already like stressed out about coming to Korea and then that something like that happens as soon as you get off the plane. I was not expecting to have to pay that much money. And then I finally get to my quarantine space. And there's just really no communication with you anymore. Like, you as in anybody coming here, they don't really communicate. And, there's not really yeah, there's not a lot of information being told as to, like, what to do. But at the airport, they did tell you, "Hey, you will, you don't need to use the app anymore." So there's no longer any, like, app regulating in long-term visa quarantines. In the government facility, I believe you still use the app, but in the long term, you don't sign in on the app, you don't take your temperature, you don't have a quarantine officer, they don't track your location. Literally, it is by your word that you stay in your wherever you are. And on within the first like 2 days, that includes the day you arrived and then the next day you have to go get a PCR test taken and you can't take public transportation. So you can either take an expensive quarantine taxi, and I was like, I paid enough for these quarantine taxis. I will walk. I will enjoy the fresh air. So I walked. You have to make sure you go to the PCR tent, which will be the extremely busy tent, and then there's an antigen tent with like the antigen tests. No one's going there. So don't go to the one with less people, go to the one with more people. It's not, a tricky like you're saving time in line. They're completely different tests. I learned that the hard way. I got an antigen test and a PCR test my first day. And then you have to go back on your own the second to last full day. And I did end up getting a text message from, I believe it was my school, but I think it was like also someone in charge of the students with the school that said you have to go to this specific health center on day one, but then the second to last day where you get the second test, you can go wherever you would like. So I'm glad I didn't go like early in the morning because I didn't get that text until like way later in the day. So I was going to go to a different one. So I ended up going to that specific facility, and then they don't send you food anymore. They don't check in on you, but they do allow you to buy groceries. Like you can go and buy groceries if you need them, or like if you need like emergency things, you're allowed to go to the store and buy them. It's much different. It's much, much different. But sorry I haven't been looking at the comments. I kind of just like got really into that little story time. So I'm just gonna look back really quick. Hi Jenny. It's okay to be late. You're fine. Yeah, I'll make videos on things that I say that are a bit more official. But quarantine in itself, I really don't know where it's going. A lot of people are like messaging me like they're getting rid of it. They're getting rid of it. And I was like, I don't say anything until it's official. And I also know that there's an election coming up, and a lot of people say that after the election things will change. And I don't know in what direction they're going to change, and neither do a lot of my friends. There's a lot of talk and a lot of word. There is officially like an announcement that is going to be made here soon about quarantine, but I don't know what it is. Obviously, yet I'm not psychic, but when I do find out, obviously I will inform you guys as fast as possible. Da, da, da. Taxis do have rooms, by the way, for like a lot of luggage, correct? So yeah, so Tracy, I also booked my SIM card off of Tracy. I have a whole video on SIM cards if you guys are curious, but I think I'm going to revamp that video and do a different video because if quarantine is gone, like in the future, if quarantine is no longer a thing, I almost prefer you to not buy a SIM card in advance. Obviously, with quarantine, you have to have a SIM card. It's just a lot easier. You can navigate, but I almost would rather you, if there's no more quarantine, come to Korea and literally, if you're really worried about directions, you're really bad, like really scared to be in Korea, and you would just prefer to have some sort of phone number if an emergency happens within the first 10 hours of you arriving. You can buy one in the airport. I took a picture of how much the SIM cards cost in the airport, which is coming out in my like updated customs video. But I bought a SIM card off of Tracy, which Tracy is in relation to another company called SIM Card Korea. I didn't realize that until I got the SIM card. I assumed there was a company, but I didn't know exactly that. When you communicate with people, you're communicating with the SIM Card Korea people. My SIM card on Saturday just randomly shut off, stopped working, and I'd only been in Korea for less than 2 weeks, so there's like a I'm like, "Is it, did it expire?" They were telling me to do all these things, take it out, switch it out. It hasn't worked since. They're sending me a new SIM card. It should arrive today, but that is 4 days. In those 4 days, I've gotten lost numerous times because there is free public Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi doesn't always connect, or it says free, but it's not really free. So going back to what I was saying before, it works. Make sure you register your Tracy SIM card as soon as you get it and let them know what days you're arriving, because they have to go in and like do some stuff, and I didn't know that I had to like pre-register it. So I showed up in the airport and it didn't work, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't register it." So that's my fault that I did that. That I didn't do that in advance. But the fact that it just randomly stopped working when I was out and about, I was missing calls, I got lost numerous times. It just really frustrated me. So it makes me lean away from Tracy, and it makes me lean towards, when you arrive in the airport, if you really are scared about directions, you could just buy these SIM cards in the airport for like a day, 2 days. No quarantine, by the way. Um, and that could be like to get you can buy something called a Wi-Fi egg as well. That can just get you to where you need to go. And I would really recommend that you go to a place in Korea that I linked. I believe I didn't link it, but if you would like the information of the place that I've gotten my SIM cards both times that I came to Korea, the people speak English, very attentive to all of my questions, never had a problem with that SIM card. With this SIM card, I have had problems. Again, it's just me. I have so many friends that have the same SIM card from Tracy, never had any issues, and if they did, they called. But it's just really frustrating to me to know that you could end up being in the situation that I was in. And I'm really good at directions, and I'm just in a new area, so I that's how I got lost. And yeah, so it kind of like, I don't want to be so like negative, because truly, like, this being here is a dream come true. I feel so blessed, like, truly. I have to like pinch myself when I wake up in this place, like, girl, you got yourself your own apartment. This is your apartment, this is yours. And it's such like a accomplishment for me, and it's so exciting, and there's so much potential and so many like videos I want to make. So I really am excited. But a lot of things like the SIM card, the taxi, I have some medical issues that I've been kind of dealing with over the past like 6 to 7 months that flared up in quarantine. So it's like day 3 of me being in Korea. This medical stuff decides to just be like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, hi," and like just like pop back up into my life. So it's frustrating that you there's so much that you can't control when you move overseas. And then when like the things that you think you usually have control over, you still can't control. That's kind of why things have been so rough. Living in an apartment in Korea obviously is going to be so cool and so difficult. Um, but at the same time, like, there's so much that I don't understand, and there's such a communication like language barrier. So for example, I was walking into my apartment, and there was this old man, a sweet ajashi, smoking outside, who comes like running up to me like, "Tokyo, Tokyo," and I'm just like literally about to walk in my apartment, like, clearly this is my house, and I'm like, "Oh, great, now I have, like, an old man that knows where I live." Because again, I don't know what's going on, and he starts saying, numbers in Korean, and I was like, "I think he's saying my room number, I think," and then I realized I was like, "What is your name? Like, who are you?" He was going like, "핸드폰 주세요, 핸드폰," and I'm just like, "I ain't giving no old man my phone number." And then he like points at his little name tag, like he's the security guard of the building that I live in. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But obviously, there's a few minutes of like me panicking, like, what the heck's going on? And I guess I need to like sign something to like live in this apartment. Like, there's something different from like the contract. And so just stuff like that where you're like, I wish I just spoke the language. And then he tries to take me on this like tour of like how to fill stuff out, or sorry, how to like take care of the trash, and like, this is your mail. And it's just like he's speaking so quickly in Korean that I'm like, like, even if I did study Korean for many years, you're talking so fast. I'm only picking up on, like, every 10th word, but it's pretty, self-explanatory when he's, like, pointing at the trash can. He shows me which bag. I'm like, "Okay, so you're telling me the general waste goes here. Cool, next." Um, but then he brings me inside to sign this paper, and it's all in there's so much Korean, and I'm like, "My SIM card doesn't work, so I can't translate it, so I don't know what this says." So just there's a lot of moments like that, I think, that have been happening that have made being here, like, so exciting and so, woof, challenging. So, it's been really hard for me to get a video together, as I'm trying to, like, figure out, how to, like, just live in Korea. Today is my school orientation. So, like, school is starting soon, trying to get involved in my church here. And I couldn't even make it to church because I got lost on my way to church. I had been lost for like an hour and I thought I was at like a subway station that could take me there. But I went to the one subway station that, like, that line isn't running or something. So, girl, guy, human, individual, it's been it's been a lot. Okay, I'm getting back to the comments. I'm so sorry, guys, about uh missing some of that. But yeah, I still think Tracy, like, they have been very helpful and quick to reply, and they're sending me a new SIM card. So I do think, like, once I get that, I'll keep you guys updated with like how that went. But it is just frustrating that it wasn't my SIM card, had that like blip in it. But yes, I hope my new SIM card is better too. Definitely got calling a taxi in the street into it late at night a few times. It's so hard to call a taxi from the app in Itaewon though. Yeah, so it does suck because when it's really busy hours, it's really hard to call the taxis on the app because they're usually full. So if you're in or if you're out and about, I'm just going to tell you right now, there is a curfew still. And at that curfew hour, you will not get a taxi. The number of times that I was like, oh, I'll just call a taxi home and curfew, I had to walk home, and walking was like 45 minutes because I was so sick of waiting, and I just was like, "Whatever, I'll get some exercise in." But if you are able to see one off the street, go for it. Just put the address, like where you're going, into the app so you can see how much the price is supposed to be. And if you pull up and it's not that price, like, and I'm saying it should be like over like 5 to 10,000 won more. Like if it's above that, like 15, 20, I hope not more, but like if it is a lot higher, you can point if you would like. You can literally point at your phone and like say just point like this is how much it should cost because he'll pick it up, like he'll pick up what he did. And if for any reason a taxi gives you crap, use a credit card. Always use a credit card to pay. If you give cash, it's like that ride never happened. So always pay with a credit card, and then you can always like talk to other people. If you have any like Korean friends, or if you want to reach out to me, you can turn them in. You're just going to want to attempt with everything that you can to get a picture of the license plate of that taxi as it drives away. And then in the taxi, in like the front passenger side, there's like a picture. It should be kind of like of his face. And I know it's so creepy and so weird, and Amber knows what I'm talking about. Try to get like a picture of his driver's license thing. It should be on the front windshield, or like the thingy that comes down. It should be, you have to be able to see it, and try to get like a picture of him somehow to show that the face matches. And even if it's just like in the rear view, you get like a picture of his eyes. It's better than nothing. But that's just like if something does go wrong and you do feel like you were wrongly charged. But honestly, it shouldn't happen. It won't happen if you get it off the app. It shouldn't happen that often if you take it off the street, but it does happen. Especially, if it's late at night, they automatically will assume that you're like drunk and you're not aware of like you're just not aware of life, I guess. And so just moments like that. It happens all over the world, not just Korea. So uh, just tips to be cautious. Amber. Had mostly positive experience with taxis. Yeah, so many taxis here, can't complain. Great experiences, super nice. One thing I noticed, there are way more Black people in Korea than Japan. Do you guys know why? Um, I honestly, the only answer that I can possibly say to that is K-pop, because majority of people that I have met here, uh, like a lot of Americans, well, honestly, the whole world, a lot of people love K-pop, so it's the draw to come to Korea. K-pop is kind of like taking over the world. I wouldn't really necessarily say that I've noticed like a increase or decrease. I mean, I haven't been to Japan, so what can I say? But I just know that a lot of foreigners that I have met, it comes from like they found out about K-pop or they found out about K-dramas. And Japan is more so like anime. And usually, not always, but a lot of people like both. Uh, it's like they like both or they don't like either all that much. And so it leads people to be like, I want to go to both places, but they kind of like take Korea as the place to live and they take Japan as the place to travel to. But again, I just know that the African American community has like a really strong love for K-pop because when I lived in Atlanta, which is also like some of the areas I lived where like many African American people lived there as well. They just loved K-pop. Like they were the strongest K-pop fans I had ever met, and I just loved. I love it so much. It's so cool. I just love when people are passionate about something. So that's the only thing that I could possibly think as to why. Definitely the K-pop, the Black community is really important. Thank you for making me feel like maybe I'm not just pulling that out of nowhere. That was just kind of, yeah, that's just my guess. Sorry if this is personal, but how did you find your apartment? Did you use Airbnb? I'm curious how foreigners can rent apartments there. So this is a question that is not, it's a difficult question. I am very lucky that the Lord above blessed me with a lot of wonderful people in my life the other times I've come to Korea. So a lot of me figuring situations out to come here was a blessing of like my church family and just people that loved me better than I deserved, honestly, and helped make a way. There is a few apartment apps that you can use to find apartments, but they're all completely in Korean. And in order to sign a contract of apartment, you have to go and like see it. You should always, you should never ever sign a contract on a place that you haven't seen. Pictures. This goes to anything. Go Shuan, like Airbnb is like the sorry, I have hiccups. The Airbnb is the only exception because with Airbnb there are pictures, but there's reviews. The reviews are so important. So apartments, like there's not really reviews. So you got to be super careful. But I was using the app. My friend would actually go for me and like view the house. I had a few friends that would like communicate with different realtors. I found a realtor that spoke English, but they were very limited in their like what they had to offer. And I kind of kept saying like, "Oh, I need this." And then they like couldn't make that work. So I was like, if you don't have it, just tell me you don't have it. Like, don't send me. But that's very Korea. Like, they'll send you all these apartments that don't really match what you're looking for, hoping that maybe something will change in you. And you're like, suddenly, I don't want that thing that I told you is a necessity for me. But yeah, so I just got super blessed. I am super blessed, super lucky that I had people help me out in advance. But it was one of the most stressful things I have done. I spent hours, hours probably in total, I don't know how many hours, plus 20 on this app, going through the different like apartments. And then by the time that you like an apartment and you reach out, it's probably gone. So you just kind of like have to be really fast. Like you have to check to make sure the listing was made recently. And then you're going to have to go. It's just, there's going to be someone that has to speak Korean. Like they have to help you out. But if I'm being honest, I really, really recommend just doing Airbnb if you are not sure how long you're going to be in Korea. I am really thankful that I wanna stay here in Korea. I really want to stay, and I thought that I could find an apartment that would allow me to save money. I wouldn't say that I'm saving all that much money when it comes to, like, I'm having to furnish this place. I'm so, so blessed again that I had a lot of people that gave me just stuff for free, and even yesterday, I went and I have this massive suitcase of this other woman who's just trying to leave Korea. So many, like, random things that she's just letting me take, like, amazing. So, like, dishes and the cooking utensils and pots and plates, and I'm getting a desk, and I had to buy a mattress. There's so many expenses that add up, plus rent, plus utilities. Airbnb, a lot of them would be almost the same price. If not, some Airbnbs, if you stayed in a shared house, would be so much cheaper than this. But I'm someone that really, really, really needs their own space, needs to have their own place to film. I'm very introverted, so like I feel very just tired living in a shared house because it doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel like my space. So I really don't have I don't have the personality type that could, like, make it in, like, shared house experiences, but it would have saved me so much money, but this is just one of the places that I budgeted for, like, I budgeted for an apartment. So, I really recommend Airbnb. There's long-term Airbnbs. I think those are, like, your best bet if you are looking to come here long term, but I just got lucky and I had some really wonderful people that God put in my life to help me out with the air apartment Airbnb apartment situation. I hope that answered your question enough. Ba, 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 ba. Is it difficult to make friends if you're traveling by yourself? Like no school involved? Are people welcoming? Really good question. I didn't I would say that a lot of my friends came from my church or came from like at one point I was just going to this like English cafe to like meet people. You can use I mean that's literally why I created this event that I'm hosting here on Saturday morning and I'll do it again in the future if people would like to. But it's just a really easy way to meet people who are also interested in Korea or just interested in traveling and there's a survey that you fill out to attend the event that it asks that I created and it asks questions like when are you coming to Korea so I can hand match you with people who are also going to be living in Korea at the same time as you and then I also base it off of, like, your interests and stuff like that. So, that's why I created that event, is because I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's difficult, but it's not easy. That is for sure. Koreans themselves, you're only gonna be able to meet Korean people through a friend of a friend, or through, like, a church setting or, like, a group setting. Be very careful with cults, by the way, in Korea. I have a if you are interested in churches, please message me on Instagram because I have, like, good churches that are not cults, because that's something to be very cautious of in Korea. But you can use Bumble BFF to, meet people. I've known people to use that. I mentioned that, I think, in one of my videos as well. And sometimes people will use Hello Talk, and they'll meet people off of Hello Talk as well. It's another app for, like, language exchange and stuff like that. I would say overall people are helpful, but welcoming, I think, is more of, like, an American idea. In my head, it's like you feel so welcomed when you, I don't know, go to like a new city, like your neighbors are so welcoming and they come over and they say hi. That doesn't always happen. But I'm just saying, like, that's what I think of as like welcoming. Whereas, like, in Korea, it's like they're more respectful, I would say, than like necessarily welcoming, which is why I really love my church, is because there's a lot of foreigners. So I felt welcomed. Whereas, like, I never really felt that way anywhere else in Korea. You can make friends. I really think traveling solo, you're gonna be totally fine. You meet people in random ways. Online, you go to a cafe, you go to a bar, you can make more friends. You will meet people. Foreigners tend to attract other foreigners because it's so different, right, to live in a foreign country. So, there's a lot of opportunity to meet people, but I don't know if I would say welcoming as more as like they're respectful. Not that they're not welcoming. I can't associate the word with Korea of welcoming. I just think of them as like very respectful and their brain isn't censored to like, is this person feeling left out? Like I am as an American. And it's not in a bad way. It's just like their mind is more like, okay, how old is this person? Are they older or younger? Do I need to use like formal speech, informal speech? Do I need to be respectful and bow? Like how far down do I have to bow? Because like what status do they have? They just think more that way. And with a foreigner, they're just either like if a foreigner comes up to, or if a Korean person comes up to a foreigner on the street, I'm just very cautious in those circumstances because I think the only times I've ever had Korean people come up to me as a foreigner were 3 separate occasions. They were all guys, 4, all guys. One of them was plastered drunk, so let's just not even count him. But the other 3 were just like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Can I have your number?" Or like, "Oh, hi." And it's just like, they don't do that in Korea. People don't go up to people on the street and start talking to them. That nobody's gonna come up to you at a cafe and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful." And if they do, they have probably not a good intention. So there's a there are ways to meet people. You can have a wonderful time. You won't be alone, but just proceed with caution and know that it's probably best for you to try to like make friends online somehow if you are a little bit worried about like taking on Korea by yourself, if that makes sense. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, Asians do not talk to strangers. So if someone's talking to you, if it's another foreigner that comes up to you, maybe it's a little bit better because sometimes people are just scared and they have questions or uh, they just want to make friends. But if it's a Korean person that comes up to a foreigner, I just would say that's a no. That's a no for me. My entire experience was literally just meeting people, no lie. I was very fortunate. That's awesome. Yeah, some people they're like, "I couldn't stop there. I had all of the plans." I would say a lot of the people that I've met are through YouTube and through Instagram who, like, reach out to me and wanna hang out, but I got so overwhelmed because I think a lot of people are like, "How do I make friends? I'm gonna be going by myself. I'm never gonna make friends." And then you guys are like, "Oh, I've seen her on Insta," or, like, "I've seen her on a live or something," and you're like, "Do you wanna hang out?" And it's like, "Yes, I would love to, but I also don't have that much time." I'm like, busy as I'll get out, but I really do want to meet some of you guys. And if things get safer here, I would love to do like a meetup in like by the Han River or something. I think that would be so fun. Are churches in Korea any different than in the States? It depends on it depends on a lot. I would say like Korean churches are very different, so different. Comparing like an American church, but there's a definite I would say, like, the church itself for me that I go to in comparison to the churches I've been to in the past, same thing. We're talking about, like, the God is so good, so gracious, so loving, and, the gospel and the Bible are, like, the core of the church, right? But in Korea, there's, like, a community of expats, right? We haven't lived in Korea our whole lives, or maybe we lived somewhere else. We have this different view of the world, and the churches will be way more transient or transient as in, like, kind of like goes back and forth, if that makes sense. Like people leave and come and go. That's what I mean. So people come and go from the church because maybe they're just like on a student visa or they just wanted to come and live for like a year. Whereas in America, like people will go to the same church for like 20 some years. So because it's so transient, because people are coming and going, I would say but also you're experiencing life in another country and experiencing just a lot of bumps of life that maybe the bump like hits harder because you're not home and there's not the comfort of home. Like me having to go to a doctor sometime like today or tomorrow and get potentially like a very, very minor incision thing going on. I'm terrified to go do this. Whereas in America, I would have been like, it's fine, not a big deal. So I'm so thankful that I have like a church where like we can all just bond over it's harder to do the simple mundane things in a foreign country. So I think that in a weird way, you can bond super quickly in an expat church, whereas like maybe it takes a while for you to feel like at home in a church in America. But that's not like a bulletproof. That's not like an always thing. But there is usually like a different bond that you form with like the people that you meet in Korea. And that's not just in the church, that's just in general. You've experienced something life changing, so different, so exciting and terrifying, and all of the emotions. And so you get to go be with other people who get it. Whereas, like in America, I felt very excluded. Like, I'm not married and I'm 28. And people are like, where's your ring? We don't know what like small group to put you in because you're supposed to be married at this point. Whereas here, like no one's really married. It's actually hard to find like young married couples. And so I just feel way more uh at home here. So I don't know if that answered your question. Cores are still the same, like the core part of it is still the same, but the how, and I feel like the sermons here often are more geared towards newer believers because so many people come and go from the church. I would say that you're not going to go as in depth every week. You'll have some weeks that are more like what some people would say like basics or like surface level information, but then other weeks that dive really deep. Whereas like in America, you can kind of pick, do you want to go to a church that just dives deep every week, or do you want to go to a church that is more surface level because you're new to faith? So I hope that answered your question, Jasmine. I met a girl at the airport and we just traveled around after quarantine and made friends along the way. So yeah, I also got lost. um, and just made, I was just like, this was actually the very first time I came to Korea. I didn't know how to get a Team Money card. I didn't know how to get anywhere. I was like, how do you take public transportation? I know there's taxis, but how do I pay for them? And we just saw this girl getting off our quarantine bus. And I was like, have you been here before? And she was able to like help us out. And it was so sweet. So yeah, so that's another really cool way to meet people. It's just as you go. You just got to Korea on Saturday, Bryn. So exciting. Welcome to Korea. So exciting. So happy for you. How long will you stay for Korea language school? I said Korea language school, Korean language school. Right now, my visa is 7 months. I would like to extend it and continue to take class if I like it. But if I don't love it, or I just want to go in a different direction, I'm looking to switch to like an entertainment visa if I have enough subscribers by then, or uh, if like some job opportunity came up. I don't really have like an end date as of right now. I just know that I want to go back and forth between America and Korea. Because if you guys didn't see the video I posted yesterday night, so that would be this morning for you guys in America. If you guys didn't see that video, my parents are in it, and it kind of shows you like how close my parents and I are. Don't get me wrong, we fight. We're no perfect family, but we really like I'm just really close to my parents, and it's hard for me to be away from them for too long. I would love to be able to like go back for a little, come back to Korea, stuff like that. Even if it's just like a trip to visit my parents, it would just be nice. So, how long am I going to Korean language school? At least 7 months. I don't know how if it'll be longer or shorter. um, that's unusual. They do that because you're pretty. I think it's better than no one is. Oh, maybe you're talking about the people on the street. I mean, I have a mask on, so I don't know if you can tell if I'm pretty or not or what, but I mean, maybe. Sometimes I just think it's like, "Ooh, foreigner." Sometimes I think it's got some wrong intentions when they see me on the street and they come up to me. Sometimes wrong intentions. Uh, oh, so I have like a setting turned on that I prefer if someone be subscribed and comment so that nobody comes in and like spams the comment section. So that's why my subscriber count might go up, maybe. Unless you're talking about because my looks, that's why my subscriber count goes up. Maybe. I'm sure that there are plenty of us that could say that we followed someone just based off of their physical attributes. Um Luckily, I didn't have to do the doctor's thing. That would be scary for me, especially as a black. Yeah, I It's scary as a female, a foreigner female. It's scary just as a female in general because or just like for me being a female, I want to see female doctors, but then it's like limited here. And so that's even more awkward. But most of the stories I've heard, when you get a referral to go somewhere from somebody else. This could be for your eyebrows, your eyelashes. This could be for a doctor or yeah, eyeglasses, all of that stuff. It's good to get referrals from other people because there are bad people in the world who take advantage of the fact that you're a foreigner. Like you'll go to the dentist. I've heard a lot of people will go to the dentist here, and if it's not a referral, they just go to some dentist and they'll be like, "Oh, we need to do all this stuff on your teeth. It's going to cost all this money." And then you go to like an actual like good dentist who someone recommends you to go to, and they're like, "No, you don't need any of that. They're just trying to like come up with stuff to get money out of you." So it's sad that that could happen overseas, but that's just kind of some of the realities of living overseas. I'm not that really religious, but I think it would be nice to find a community at a church that has expats. Do you think I would be judged? Oh, not at all. Absolutely not. Please, if you want to know where I go to church, if you want to come with me, I'm more than welcome to. You can tag along with me because I really love like these are like the closest friends that I have are from this community, and I really can't, like, recommend like, when people are like, "Who are your friends?" I'm like, "My church." So many great people that I'm excited to be back with and see again soon. Tried to go on Sunday to church, and then I got lost. I was so lost, oh my gosh. By the time I figured out where I was still 40 minutes away, and church was, like, starting in, like, 5 minutes, and I was like, "I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go home and watch online because I'm tired and very stressed." I say it with a smile. I broke down crying in the middle of the street. Living abroad is not always, you know, fluffy clouds and stuff like that. I just want to be real with you guys. You're leaving when I arrive. I mean, I bought this apartment for a year, so I'm not leaving. I don't plan to like if I want to do the student visa, I can just continue or extend and not leave. I might just go back for like a quick trip for like a week or two to see my family in between semesters. So I'm not leaving anytime soon, that's for sure. I left Korea a week ago because I was having so much social anxiety that I couldn't even function. Sarah, that is, I'm glad that you said that in the comments because it's just a good like reality that stuff like that happens, you know? It's not this, like, perfect country, it's not super easy, stuff like that, and I'm really sorry that you had that experience, I really, really am. If you do like Korea and you ever do wanna come back, please reach out and I can try to help connect you with more people if you are ever coming back, and, I'm really sorry though, but I hope you're feeling better wherever home is to you. And your time here was still meaningful, and I'm sure it still changed you as a person, expanded your mind, your view of things. It was beneficial for you to come, even if it didn't end in like a pretty bow. Traveling makes us who we are, and it impacts us in really inspiring ways. So I still hope you can look back at it and say, "I'm glad you went," you know, because I'm glad you did. How many subscribers do you need for an entertainment visa? There's no really set number of subscribers. It's just the more your channel grows, the more opportunities that open up for you. So I don't really have like a set number in mind, but it's kind of one of those like I'm going to work as hard as I can. And then when it's time for me to kind of start making decisions for the future, I'll look at how many subscribers I have, reach out to companies accordingly and see if that is like if that's enough for these companies, but there's not really like a set number. I just got to keep working hard. That's the goal at least for like right now. Because it's not sadly there's no magic number. It's just the matter of keep growing, keep growing. How is it leaving and coming back every 90 days? Does Korean immigration care? So I'm not on a tourist visa anymore. I was the other two times I came to Korea. So now I'm on like a long-term visa. But so many people, they do what's called border hopping. With COVID, it makes it hard. With quarantine, it makes it hard. Honestly, Not opposed. I probably would have done that if quarantine wasn't a thing. But I also want to learn Korean. So I wanted to like force myself and put myself in a situation where I really, really learn how to speak Korean. But usually a lot of people border hop. So they'll just go to a different country and then they'll come back and then keep doing that. They just keep going around and you could keep going back and forth with like the same country. I've never heard of anybody getting denied to do that unless they like broke the law or overstayed their welcome on one of their visas and then you have to pay these crazy fines if you overstay. So I've never heard of anybody not being allowed to do that in my orbit, but I'm sure there's experiences where like maybe someone had done it 20 times and they're like, "Stop, you can't do it anymore." I don't know. But never had any issues when I did the 90 when came home, came back 90. I know a lot of people that come back and forth a lot on tourist visa. So, ba, 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 ba. Yes. Yes, anybody that wants to know about churches, non-culty churches, please message me. Um, Jubilee Church, I have heard of it. It is a bigger church. I prefer maybe more of a smaller church. So I found a similar church to Jubilee, but like the smaller version. And the church that I attend is a little bit, I think, in a better location for me. So that worked out well. But if anybody, yeah, has any questions, I just don't ever want to like publicly say where I go in case crazy people be out there. So just message me on Instagram or you can email me at meganostin at yahoo.com or uh, Instagram. I'd probably get back to you just as fast. So da-da-da-da. I'm going to language school too. Looking forward to it. Where are you, Ross, going to language school? Okay, so said here the border hopping to stay in Korea 90 days tourist visa, but if you're from like the US or like the Western side of thing, it's easier. If you're from Southeast Asian countries, it's harder. They think that you're trying to work illegally in Korea. Good to know. Thank you for sharing that. I always worry about clinics in Korea for foreigners. A lot of YouTubers I watch will get something done and then come back a couple of months later about how they hated it. It's scary. Or if you're talking about like the surgery, like the plastic surgery type stuff, I'm not ever hoping to ever do plastic the surgery ness. I get very intimidated and scared. I'm terrified of needles. I used to not be able to say the word needles because they freaked me out so much. Not looking to do any of that, but I'm talking about something like medically, like I have to go to like a hospital and get something done because there's like a medical problem that if I don't fix it, it gets really bad. So I think my situation's a little bit different, but there are a lot of people who do have really bad experiences, um, which is sad. But there's also a lot of people that have really good experiences, or they feel like they did stuff and it didn't do anything, which at least that's better than like something bad happened. But I just get a little I'm not looking to do that, so I'm probably not someone to talk or, like, ask any, like, questions as far as, like, how to figure all the getting the face stuff done out, but it is really sad, but it's also kind of like it's so popular here, there's so many places to go, so many options of things to get done, and it's so cheap, it's kinda like I totally understand why some people still go for it, even if it is maybe not the best outcome. It's so cheap, it usually isn't, like, detrimental. It's just I feel like a lot of the horror stories are kind of like bad people, bad vibes, or, they feel more like it was a waste of time, or I mean, a waste of money. So, it is sad though, but you are right. So, Airbnbs are kind of dependent upon the situation and how long you're staying, but for long-term visa or long-term Airbnbs, you're staying for months at a time, you do pay as you go. You don't pay upfront. But if for some reason they had a different policy, you can message them and ask them about, like, is there any way we could switch to like a payment thing? But from what I've always seen when I looked into the long-term stays, you pay like as you go by month. Or sometimes they make you pay like half upfront, half later. It's kind of dependent on the Airbnb. They get to kind of like call the shots for themselves. But that's what I saw. Canceling, stuff like that. So that's a good question. I don't think people understand. If on Airbnbs, this is one of the reasons why I think Airbnb is great is because you are protected in a way that you aren't protected in other circumstances. So what I'm saying, or like what I mean is that with Airbnb, you there's going to be like that little like clause or like the cancellation policy, and it'll say like no refund after blah blah blah. There's like a little subsection. What people don't understand is that no matter what that subsection says, you can still get refunded if you figure things out with the owner. So at least 4 or 5 times have I stayed somewhere and been like upon arrival, been like, okay, first of all, this isn't worth the price, or like this ain't what, like these pictures it does not look like this place is nasty, this place is moldy, stuff like that. And you can contact Airbnb, but usually Airbnb always tells you to speak with the owner. And the reason that they do that is on the owner's end, a lot of Korean people don't even know this sometimes. I have to tell them. But once your trip starts, they can alter the date of your leaving, basically. They can change that date, and then you have to hit approve. And if they change the date, like let's say you show up on a Friday, you're like, I'm out. I'm not staying here. You will have to pay for that Friday night, but they can change the date to Saturday as a checkout, and you'll be refunded everything. The only thing that does suck is like a lot of people who pay for like long term. Uh, there's a discount that comes with like long term stays. Like, oh, if you're staying for over 2 months, you get this huge discount. So you won't get the discounted rate back. You'll have to pay one night as if you were only staying for one night, and then you have to pay the cleaning fee. So it is a little bit expensive, but at the same time, I mean, that's better than staying in some crappy moldy place. But Airbnb does like help in those circumstances, and there is the opportunity to get a refund, whereas a lot of other places you're signing a contract and you cannot get your money back for like the amount of time that you stayed. So that's another thing I really like about Airbnb. Oh my gosh, the last place you had bed bugs. I'm so sorry. That's horrible. I'm so sorry, Ty. Sorry, I just had a moment where I zoned out and I was just like, um, where was I? Do you think they'll cancel Halloween again? Hmm. Things don't look like they're going in the cancellation direction. Things look like they're going in the opposite direction. When I say Korea does not care about COVID like they used to, they don't care. They really like there's so many people that have COVID that they realize it's kind of like unstoppable. And so they do care about their people, right? But at the same time, like they're not as strict as they were before. Like I said, after this election, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if things are going to like all close back up. I really have no idea, but things are looking like they're going to open up pretty dang soon, which is kind of like crazy to me. But again, they could like retract all of that. And if there's another variant, I have no idea what they're going to do. But I don't think that it would be like last year. I really don't. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm going to apply for Korea's university language program next year. What school are you going to? I'm going to Sogang University, and I'm specifically going to Sogang because I've heard numerous times that hi Hope. I've heard numerous times that Sogang is the best school for learning how to speak Korean, and that is what I want to do. I want to know how to speak. I don't really care about taking like a TOEIC test or anything like that, which is like how good is your Korean test, and it allows you like at jobs and stuff like that. I just want to know how to speak. I want to know how to go out to eat and not feel scared to order like I always do. Sort of doing that before I head to Korea, starting in Germany. You're welcome to. Sorry, I'm reading all the comments. I try to remember to read some aloud and some in my head, and I forget. Um, how did you go with the level test and speaking test interview for the language course? I failed due to my mind going blank with Korean at the moment. No, do not be disappointed in yourself. I totally get what you're saying. Like I totally understand. I would beat myself up about that too. I specifically said, because I was so scared of those tests, I just said I want to start in level 1. I I know a lot of level 1, but I'd rather go back to like basics while I'm trying to figure my life out here in Korea and figure out like apartment, and I care the most about YouTube. And so I didn't want to start. I knew I was like right on the border of like I could just do level 2 and probably keep learning, like continue the track because I meet with a tutor. I've gone to classes in America online. So like if I started in level 2, I would probably be working hard, but I'd be okay. I kind of just said, nope, we're gonna play it easy. We're just gonna start at level 1. Those tests terrify me anyways, so I'd rather just like start from ground zero and, like encourage myself in the journey of like, "Oh, you already knew that. Good job," rather than being like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know anything. I suck." So I just decided to skip all of that. My mind would have gone blank to 100%. I know it. So I get why you're beating yourself up, but girl, it's okay. It's gonna be. That's my bathroom. That's the only thing about this apartment that's kind of loud. Walls are really, really strong. Don't hear people next door. But if anybody takes a shower, go to the bathroom. I know. I know right away. If you guys heard that, probably. I don't know. My place was so nice too, but I got eat up so bad. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That is horrible, girl. I'm so sorry. Yes, Korea, I also agree. I think it's moving towards normal. I don't know what that process looks like, but it is moving towards normal. I was going to go to Sogong to learn Korean, but ultimately ended up going to a school here in the States and going to Yonsei this. Oh yeah, okay, that's also good. I mean, go to any school. Why not? You get you in Korea. That's exciting. Any success with so I haven't tried. Is it Pilmsler? Pilmsler? I don't know how to say it. I have not tried the, in my opinion, the most beneficial of all apps with Korean language. I always link it down below because people ask me this question a lot. It's called, I'm trying to find the link so I can copy and paste. Twida. Let's see. Right here. They just redid their app and it actually looks really, really good. Can I post this in the chat? I think personally that is the best app to learn Korean because it puts you in like real life situations. And I use that to learn how to like order my coffee and how to go out to eat at restaurants because it's like a video, like an interactive video, and it'll ask you a question in Korean and then you reply in Korean and it like voice matches, like it can tell you how accurate you are in your reply. It blows my mind every time. I'm always like, it feels like I'm talking to someone. It's crazy. So I definitely think that is the app that I've had the most luck on to learn Korean. But I'd be open to try other apps. Get back to you guys. But I think that my school is going to keep me nice and busy. I wish they would cancel the mandatory quarantine. I'm in the government quarantine hotel now. I wish to. I really like, for just the sake of Korea, so many businesses like rely on tourism and it's getting to the point where they're really like they can't hold on any longer. So I really do hope, and that's part of the reason why things have been opening back up, was like it was a plea to help small businesses that have been like suffering. So I really hope for the sake of Korea and for the sake of the sanity of all the people that also would like to come here and are just like anxiously waiting. I will be the first, hopefully, to tell you guys as soon as I can if it ever does get canceled. The quarantine. Do you know of any good gyms in Seoul? I have probably, I'm not totally sure what gender you are, but I have been looking into all female gyms just because, or at least gyms that have a female section, just because, being a foreigner in Korea, that's not really the place I want to be going. And just feel like I'm a fish in a fishbowl getting like stared at. So I'm not sure if you're a guy or a girl, but if you're a girl, I have a few on my list, but uh, I'm probably not the best person to ask because it's also very locationally like where you're going to be staying in Seoul. There's so many gyms. Oh my god, there's so many. In the speaking interview test, I didn't get. I didn't. Wait a minute. I didn't get tested. The teacher said I'm going to level 1B since I can read and write Korean. Wait, I didn't know there was a level 1B because I can read and write Korean too. Well, again, the reason I started from the basics is because I want to go back to the basics. So, will I lose my mind? Probably, but hopefully my pronunciation will be so good by the end of this. Dang it, I wish I would have known that. I definitely know 1A. Okay, anyways, it's okay. Yeah, Twi'da is so good. I think I use it alongside that course as well. I've heard Duolingo is like I've heard mixed. Yeah. I just wanna learn how to speak. I wanna know how to say things that people are gonna say out in public. Like, I don't wanna learn, like, the cat is sitting under the chair as much as I wanna learn, like, "Hi, I would like to order this hot coffee." Like, so that's just why I really like Twi'da is because it's more like, this is actually, like, words that you use. It's, like, categorized by where you are in the world, like, where you're going out, what you're doing in the world, going to the movies, restaurant, getting a taxi, what you'll say to the taxi person. I feel having to walk up and down the all the stairs of the subway station is enough exercise. I feel that. I feel that. Just walking in general. And when it's summertime, I'm gonna die. I'm literally gonna die. Filmser is actually great. My homegirl is obsessed with it. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm so bad at reading. I'm like, can't multitask. Um, oh, Ashley, I'm so glad that you liked Twi'da and that you were able to sign up and you enjoyed it and stuff. I'm so glad. I really love it. I really do. I don't recommend anything. Like, I turn down brands that want to work with me if I don't like them or I don't have any reason to like work with them. Like I'm like, I'm not gonna just tell people about your product unless I love it. So I reached out to Twi'da and I said, I still don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it. Twi'da, I think. I reached out to them and I was like, I love you guys. I'd love to like offer a discount to my subscribers because I love them so much. And it worked out well. Duolingo's only good for vocabulary. Marlena is like one of the top Duolingoers that I think in like Marlena, I don't even know what your statistics are, but you crazy up there high with Duolingo. Like she's got the craziest streak I've ever heard in my entire life, which is blows my mind. Um, Marlena, I hope to be like you. I hope my Korean can get as good as yours. I know you're rolling your eyes. Don't do it. Your Korean is so good. Sorry. Some of the stuff that like I guess the day-to-day stuff or the things that have been like maybe difficult that I want to inform you guys about if you are trying to come to Korea. The process of applying to go to schools, to apply to be a teacher, all of that is hard and it takes a long time. So if you're looking to come to school, whatever day the application date starts, right away. Start it right away. I'm going to make a video on how I applied for the school, and you have to get oh, that's so someone literally says in the comments, "How long did your FBI background checks?" Yeah. So I didn't have to get a background check to go to school, apostilled. I didn't have to do FBI check or any of that, but I did have to get my college diploma apostilled. And if you guys don't know what like an apostille document is, it's basically like you have to send. For me, I went to college in Ohio. So I had to take my college certificate, send it to Ohio to have the state of Ohio say, like, yes, this is a real document. It's actually authentic. Then they have to send it back to you. Then you have to send it to Korea. Um, there's the act of like actually applying for the school and, going back and forth with the school, having to do that, having to like wire transfer the money, crazy, complicated. Then you have to apply for the visa in the country that like you live. In America, there's regions within the country. So I was in like, I had to apply to the Atlanta one. And everybody told me you're not making your flight on time because they said it takes way longer. I sent in my documents to be like, I sent in the visa documents, which gets me like my visa back. Like I have to send my passport and they give me my visa that allows me into the country. Everyone said takes like 2 to 3 weeks. But I think that the student visas that are like, you're going to be a full-time student here, not Korean language program. So I'm on a D4. D4, yeah. So like D2. Am I in D4? Am I on a D? Yeah. The language exchange visa is different from like the actual student visa where you're like coming for like a 4-year program or something like that, like a D2. Those take longer. Mine, teacher visa, that all takes longer. For me, it took 2.5 business days. Blew my mind, but it was like that. The whole thing, like that portion of it, I thought I was never going to make my flight because I sent my paperwork in on the 2-week mark. As soon, like it was as soon as I could. It was as soon as I got it. Sent it on like the 2-week away from my trip mark. And then my paperwork got lost in the mail. Love that for myself. And they got it the next week and they literally called me, your visa's done. I also, mind you, wrote, if you're in a hurry, please only do this if you're in a hurry, because if you're not, then you're hurting other people by saying this. But I wrote urgent on the envelope that I sent all the information in, the documents and stuff like that. Excuse me, I didn't have coffee. And then the what's it called? Oh, my flight itinerary. I printed it out. I highlighted like the date that I leave, and I wrote like urgent, like my flight is in 2 weeks, like help. I didn't write help, but I did. The guy told me like write it on the front, staple a piece of paper and stuff like that so that they can like move you to like the higher part of the list. So if you're in a stressful circumstance, you can do that too. 2.5 business days. They told me it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. I was panicking. And then God said, girl, I got this. Child, be still. You don't got this. I do. Cat is sitting. This is why Duolingo is not the best. I know, right? Yes, applying is so stressful, long-winded. I like wasn't sleeping. I was like, I'm never gonna get there. And then I thought I was gonna get there, so I bought an apartment. And then they were like, "Oh, we never got your wire transfer, so you like the classes for the semester are full." And I was like, but I already paid. So many things went wrong, and that'll all be said again in the video I make about it, just to warn people so that they know, like, you got to get the stuff situated fast. I managed to get my visa and passport back to 3 to 4 days. I was due to leave. Stressful too. Yep. Some people will say don't buy your flight ticket until you get your visa like back in your hands. But I'm like, if you have the money to buy a last minute plane ticket, by all means, go for it. I don't have that kind of money to wait. And I'm sorry that this office chair has like these make a lot of noise. Um, you guys are on my kitchen counter because my desk is coming in the mail today so that I can sit at something other than my kitchen countertop. I used an apostle service when I was in New York, and even though it was pricey, it's the best thing I could have done. Yes, so you're gonna have to use some sort of like apostle service of some kind. And in Ohio, thankfully, Ohio is like one of the few states that I'm aware of that you can do the whole thing online. So I did it all online through the internet. Like I did the apostle, like I didn't have to send it to them. It was over like a little Zoom call, and she did the stamp on the Zoom call. It was great. Then they emailed me a copy. I was able to print it off. Then I had to go get it. I have to go look back at my notes because I wrote down all my notes. Then I had to get it. You have to get it notarized first and then apostilled. Yeah, so I could do the notarizing online. We're gonna have to wait for the video because I don't want to say something wrong and this gets saved to the interwebs. But yeah, there's notarizing, there's apostilled. Ohio is one of the states where you can do a large portion of that online. So, Sasha, yay us for going to school in Ohio. But that's where you went to school, by the way, the state that you went to school. When you were at Duncan, yes, nothing beats Duncan. I don't know why I love Duncan so much. It has such like a special place in my heart. I worked at this Christian summer camp, and I literally didn't I took all of this out of the video because I honestly sometimes like if you guys saw how long the video was originally, I always cut my videos down like significantly, and I probably shouldn't have cut it so much, but whatever. There was like a portion I cut out that I talked about. I used to work at this camp. I didn't actually have coffee at all until after college, actually. I worked at a Christian summer camp, and we were on the clock 24/7, other than like the students came, like the campers came on Sunday afternoon, and they left Saturday morning, I want to say. Pretty sure they left Saturday morning. So we had like Saturday morning to like Sunday night-ish was like our off time. And then every other day we had a 2-hour break. But then we like slept with the campers. It was great. Like we had a blast. But with that being said, you're tired. And so people are like, Megan, if you don't like coffee, you got to start liking it now. So I got addicted. There was a Dunkin' that was like right down the street from our camp. So camp ran on Dunkin'. That's all I gotta say. So it's always my favorite. Like, I gotta get that one last time, you know? I love, but honestly, I prefer going to Starbucks coffee wise. If I like actually want good coffee or I need to stay awake, I'll go to Starbucks. But Dunkin' is like my special place, and it's so much cheaper. They have like the solid like $2 coffee from like 2 to 4. I'm all about it. Also from New York, it took exactly 14 days to receive my E2 visa. So plan ahead. Yes, always plan ahead. Again, my really fast turnaround thing is only because I'm on a different visa. So a lot of the longer visas, a lot of like the teaching and the full-time students, those will take 2 to 3 weeks for sure. So, yeah, so you need the flight ticket for the application. What I've heard, and again, I'm not saying do this, but I've just heard that people will say you can buy a ticket, and most tickets you have 24 hours to get them refunded. And so people will like buy the ticket, submit that as like that's their ticket, and then they like refund the ticket back, and then they'll rebuy their flight later once like the visa's actually like in their hands. I'm like, that's too much for me. If you did do that, you have to let your school know that you have, like, a different flight. But I bought a ticket that it was like 200 more dollars, but literally I could get it refunded at any point, and I'm so glad I did. Like, I could change the date and I could get it refunded at any point. And so that was the best decision I could have made because then I could get the whole ticket completely refunded back to me. And I actually did need to end up doing that. Very complicated, the whole flight thing, but I ended up needing to change my flight, and I got completely refunded because I paid that extra bit of money. So, 10 out of 10 recommend that you pay a little bit more to make your flight date flexible just in case. It's way worth paying maybe 200 more dollars in comparison to having to lose so much money or have to buy a new ticket or something, really crazy sad like that. That's just what I recommend that you do. I am gonna head out kind of soon though because I still need to eat lunch. I shoved a bowl of cereal. It's right here still. I was like 1 minute late because I was sitting here like and I was gonna be like, "Oh, you could just eat it on camera." But the spoon hold on. I guess I'm just making a fool of myself either way. But like the spoon is really big. And so I'm like looking like an idiot. Um So I was like, I'll just finish the cereal really fast, but I'm starving and I need to actually like make lunch. And I want to get back to some of these people for the speed friending event that is happening on Saturday. I have to send a few like confirmation emails and start matching people up. I love that part. I love looking over like I just love getting to know you guys. So I get to read through this little questionnaire and match you with other people who gonna be your friend. I just love it so much. For anyone that's flown to Korea recently, has anyone's flight delayed an additional 2 hours while in the air? I wanted to cry when the announcement. 2 hours in the air. Wow. I have gotten delayed a lot in general. Delayed probably wow, 2 hours, that's hard. I got delayed, obviously, like when you're just sitting on the plane and they haven't left yet. The worst was when I was trying to come back from Korea the second time. I literally they didn't have a gate to put the plane. Did nobody talk? Like, we didn't talk about the fact that, like, this plane from South Korea is landing. We didn't Nobody talked about that. So we just sat in like the middle of a random runway for 2 hours. There were over 150 connecting flights, like people on that plane that had a connecting flight, and over 100 of us missed our connecting flight. So we had to all buy these hotels, or they, like for us, bought these hotels for us and uh they, like, gave us food vouchers to use in the airport, but by the time that they gave us the food vouchers, the airport restaurants all were closed. That was a day. That was not a day I ever wanna go back to. So, I understand delays, but in the air, 2 hours, I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. But to get from, Atlanta to Korea, it was like 14 and a half, 15 hours. I wanted to die. Usually, I took connecting flights. I was really lucky to find a direct flight, to get back this time. But usually, I would go to Dallas no, Fort Worth, and Texas, and then I would go from Texas to Korea. I think it's like 2.5 hours or something to get to Dallas, and so obviously it's a shorter amount of time to get to Korea. I felt every bit of those, like, extra 2.5 hours that I wasn't used to. I was on the plane like, "Get me out of here, get me out of here." I was pulling like a Ajuma, Ajushi, like, they usually get up and they'll, like, walk around and they'll do, like, little stretch exercises and, like, the really awkward portions of the wing, like, the portions where, like, they're near the bathroom, but there's clearly people sitting right there, and they're just like, what I'm talking about? Just doing all the stuff, stretching out their legs. I did that. I was like, "I understand why they do this now." I thought I was gonna die. It was hard. I had to get up and take laps twice. And I was like, I don't know how anybody else is not doing this. Like my legs were like falling asleep at one point. I was dying. Do you think groceries are so expensive in Korea? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Guys, I was trying really hard to like just buy a bunch of groceries. I didn't wanna have to, like, eat out on, like, Coupon Eats or, like, anything like that, like by the way, the only reason I'm able to use Coupon Eats is because I have friends who are allowing me to use their accounts, and, like, I can attach my money separately. Um, so you can only really use Shuttle, but Shuttle is a little bit more expensive than Coupon Eats. So, I'm over here like, "I'm just gonna buy groceries." Yeah, I'm gonna save money. I'm not gonna eat out all the time. I'm just gonna buy groceries. Might as well just eat out. Like, literally, groceries are so expensive. If you buy a lot of things that maybe in your country you're used to buying, you have to really think Korean and buy Korean groceries if you wanna go to the grocery store. So, your girl has so many eggs in her fridge, and she's got a lot of kimchi, and I bought, like, a huge pack of onions. I bought, like, 2 peppers, extremely expensive. Potatoes, okay. Mostly eggs. Yep, and rice. And fake cheese. Gotta love fake cheese. Like the Kraft pre-sliced cheeses. I saw a, like, Instagram video where someone made, like, cheesy ramen, and they used fake, like, cheese slices, and the comment section went berserk, like, "How could you use fake cheese?" I'm like, "They probably live in Korea because it's, like, the only option is fake cheese." But they wouldn't know because they don't live in Korea, but there's not really a lot of cheese selection, and if there is, it's expensive, so you just get the fake cheese, and you still pay an arm and a leg for it, but at least it's cheese. Where was I? You finally caught a stream. Hello. Hello, hello. Yeah, 15-hour flight. Don't 10 out of 10. Don't recommend. Don't recommend. 11 hours, a little bit more manageable, yes. I usually actually drive in America. I drive a lot, like a lot. I've driven 11 hours by myself, but it's nice because you can literally, like, get out of the car, go to the bathroom. I can go eat at a restaurant if I want, just, like, put the windows down. It's your own space, whereas, like, in an airplane, you're just like if you get the window, lucky enough to get the window, So it's just it is a it's difficult. Yes, markets can be cheaper. I guess I just like my biggest issue with the whole market thing is there's usually a lot of Korean speaking. Again, this is why I'm here at Korean school. I want to be able to go to markets and stuff like that more confidently. And right now it's just a lot easier to like slip into like the mega e-marts and just buy what I want and slip out rather than, having to start all of this conversation and I don't know how to barter and they're charging me more than they should, that kind of situation. So, till my language improves. Kimchi fried rice. So good. Marlena, hit me up if you need help with recipes. I need help. I did buy an air fryer. I found a really cheap one. It's tiny, but I am now experimenting with an air fryer. All I've done so far is basically broccoli, and I burnt it. So pray for me. Yes, I want to go to these. Yes, I will go to. Oh, take my hair with me. I will go to one of these traditional markets for sure, and I hope I can, like, record when I'm there too. You get to go to Korea for your 18th birthday? Wow. So excited for you. Wow, that is amazing. I hope you have a really great trip, and hopefully things are way more normal than they are right now. They're not bad. We're getting a lot better. We're slowly the fact that you can go into restaurants and not check there's no signing in, there's no QR codes, you just walk in. Crazy. And who would have thought that me being actually, like, me having to say that that is crazy to just walk into a restaurant or a cafe, but it's crazy. Okay, I'm gonna go here kind of soon, but where did you buy the air fryer? Coupang. Bought it off a Coupang. It still blows my mind how fast Coupang is. It is, again, I use my friend's account because I don't have my own ARC yet, but when I do, I'll be able to do all that on my own and open up a bank account, all that stuff. But my desk supposedly is getting delivered today, and I ordered it last night at like 11:55 PM. It just blows, like, Korea is like Bali, Bali, like, there's so everything here so fast, blows my mind. I hope everything is back to normal. Yep, I hope it doesn't escalate. I have no idea. I mean, it sucks. I hate that so many people are sick. I'm just so thankful that of all of the variants that could be going crazy, it's Omicron because it really is way more mild than a lot of the other variants. I'm just trying to think, like, if it was another variant and it was this contagious, like, I don't even want to think about it. I'm just very, very, very thankful that it is not. Anyways, I hope to see you guys at that friend speeding event. But if not, you can go watch my latest video. I just uploaded a video yesterday. No, your morning. And it's just kind of about like what I would recommend that you pack in advance, all that kind of jazz. I will share it here now if you want to go watch that. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. I hope I answered some of your questions and all that good jazz. But it was wonderful to talk with you guys. Living in Korea is not easy. I didn't want to get, too much into all the details of how many times I had little breakdown sessions and all of that and just, cried. But living overseas is not easy, but I hope that my videos continue to help you guys out so that if you do come here or you do visit here, you find them to be helpful and informative and it makes your trip a little bit easier. So much love to you guys. And I will see you in my next live stream, hopefully soon. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.